Good afternoon. Wake up. My name is Roger Voigt, and I'm a past president of the American Driver and Traffic Safety Organization. Just a couple of comments before I introduce this learned panel up here. First of all, our representative and Secretary of State really emphasized the GDL. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Illinois High School and College Driver Education Association for their input. Without them, this probably wouldn't have happened. So I would like to extend my thanks to those members that are in attendance now. When we talk about high school and the teenagers, there's a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. First of all, in high school driver education, traffic safety, we are controlled by budgets. And when school boards and administration meet, usually the first thing to go is physical education, driver education. The school district I was associated with for 30 some odd years, when I first arrived in that district, we had one of the best programs, not only in the state, but the nation. But due to the apathy of administration, budget cuts, and other lame excuses, we have now deteriorated to the fact that we are at best average. So hopefully with this learned panel, we can get some insights on distracted driving and cell phone usage. So first, I would like to start off with Susan Dudek of Allstate. Susan has been the administrator and corporate representative for teenage driving for the Allstate Foundation. She has received many awards, done many activities to help promote teenage driving, safe driving, and distracted driving. So I would like to turn this over to Sue, and I'm sure that her remarks will be very well received. Susan?
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to today's session on distracted driving. I think it's fascinating and fabulous that so many people took this entire day to come and talk about such an important subject. And I'm happy to share with you some insights that we've gotten through the Allstate Foundation Teen Safe Driving program that I lead about teen driving and what we can do to help the youngsters teach us about being safe on the roads. So I'm going to do basically three things today. I'm going to talk about the research results that the Allstate Foundation has. Over the last 5 years, we've commissioned about 5 different national online teen surveys. And from that, we've garnered a great deal of knowledge about what teens like and don't like. The second thing I'm going to do is talk about strategies for change, how we influence teens to change their behavior. And then finally, I'm going to talk about, very briefly, some of the best practices that we've seen. So starting first with those research results, but I have to figure out how to work this first. There we go. I'm sorry about that. So what we have learned through our research with teens is that they really do need and want our help. Honestly, they do understand the dangers of distracted driving. They really want us, adults, to help them change their behaviors. Through our research, we found that about 82% of teens report using a cell phone while driving. They did say that texting behind the wheel was their biggest distractions. Surprisingly, to us anyways, girls were increasingly self-reporting dangerous behaviors, including using a cell phone behind the wheel, much more so than guys, which is kind of alarming. And then we also found that 74% of teens, which is actually quite a lot when you think about teens, approve of graduated driver's licensing, essentially a single law that would start with a learning period at age 16, put limits on late-night driving, passenger limits for new drivers. Significantly, they wanted prohibition of cell phone use, 85%, and texting, 93%, which are pretty significant numbers, and then full unrestricted licensing at age 18. And we know on a more qualitative side of things that through our focus groups that we've had, that the teens acknowledge to us that they know it's very dangerous behavior, and they've actually said that they need help, that it is an addiction, that they feel like they have to be socially connected with their friends at all time. So whatever we can do to help them break that would be very important to them. We also found in our research that when we asked the teens, well, so who do you most want to hear the safe driving message from? And parents, not surprisingly, were number one on the list. But their friends, meaning the friends could be the most important person to make them change the way they thought about driving, was 53%, and then a police officer at 50%. And then who could make you feel differently about the way you drive? They said someone who had caused a crash, someone who had lost someone close to them in a crash, and then an expert on vehicles and driving safety. So I think it talks to the power of the stories that our families have shared with us today, and the fact that they are being courageous and going out and telling their stories, I think is really going to make a difference. At least that's what the teens tell us. So we have invested in the power of peer influence. We all were teens. We all, even today, know that the power of peer influence. Peer pressure can be a mighty, mighty strong factor. If we can harness peer pressure and use it for something good rather than something bad, we think we'd be in a great position to address this issue. We know that it will make a difference because teens who participate in youth traffic safety programs, where they're talking from one teen to another teen, are more likely to have asked or suggested one of their friends or family members to drive more safely, which is important. Isn't this what it's all about? We've heard it throughout today, is that we have to all speak up in dangerous situations. And if participating in these youth traffic safety programs helps empower teens to do that, then I think there's a great deal to invest in there. We've also found that teens who participate in youth safety programs are more likely to assign a parenting driving contract, which I think we all know is a very protective factor in preventing crashes. And then I also think it's really important to note that I've come across some research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the World Health Organization that suggests that teens who lead traffic safety and other health-related programs as young people are more likely when they get older to be leaders in the health arena. And I think there's a great example of that in this room today. I'd like Laura Saldivar to stand up. Laura, go stand up. Come on, don't be bashful. Laura is a high school junior at Jacobs House School in Algonquin, Illinois. She's been leading their Project Ignition program for a couple years now. Last fall, she joined the National Teen Distracted Driving Leadership Prevention Team, a program that is put together by the National Organizations for Youth Safety, funded through the Allstate Foundation. She has met with Secretary LaHood twice, Administrator Strickland once. She is lending her voice to this very important issue. She did tell me the other day that she was considering a career in traffic safety, and I thought that's exactly what we need to do through these programs, is get them engaged as young people, understand the passion, harness their abilities, and create the future leaders. And I think Laura's a great example of that, and I want to thank Laura for what she does. I know there's some other young people in the audience, too, who are doing great programs, and I think that's all great. Very quickly, because I only have 7 minutes to share with you everything we know about teen driving. So at the Allstate Foundation, we believe in using multiple sources of influence, starting first with personal. How do we link the behavior that we want somebody to adopt to their personal values, and then build the skills that they can use to reflect those values? The second thing is social, harnessing that peer pressure that I mentioned, and creating a social support system so those kids feel like they can go out and be a teen driving advocate in a group setting or an individual setting and still not be ostracized at all. And then finally, structural changes. We all talk about the importance of law and enforcement of those laws. So at Allstate Foundation and the Allstate Insurance Company, we use personal tools, social tools, and then structural tools to try to make a change in the way teens act and think when they get into the car. We also found through our work that there are some new rules in terms of engaging teens in social issues. First, you have to provoke them. You have to get them interested in the issue. Then you need to connect them with the issue. You have to share with them the issue, empower them to address it and reward them, and then most importantly, to let them own it. These are really immensely talented young people, and they really have great ideas, and they know how best to reach their peers and their classmates. So I skipped a page, but I guess we won't. So we have, let's see, go back. So at Allstate and the Allstate Foundation, we really have 5 different programs that are addressing teen driving. We have our Exit Text National Awareness Program, which features those ring bands that says texting kills. We have our Family Driving Challenges, where we go out and have parents and their teens drive through obstacle courses with distractions. We have our Act Out Loud program, which is for National Youth Traffic Safety Month. Our Keep the Drive High School Journalism Awards, where we award teen journalists, whether they write for the school newspaper or broadcast segments for the school television station. and they can win cash awards for that. And then we also support with the Ford Driving Skills for Life program, the Illinois Operation Teen Safe Driving program, which Mike Stout from IDOT's Division of Traffic Safety put together, which is a fabulous program. Each year involves about 105 schools across the state. Not all of them dealing with distracted driving, but a fair amount do. So there are a lot of programs out there that exist. I know State Farm has a great Project Ignition program. My point is this: there are a lot of programs out there to get young people involved in the issue. Not to say that it's enough, we always need more, but I think if you look at existing resources, you'll find ways to engage your students and your communities in this issue. And basically, just really quickly, because I think I'm out of time, these are the top 10 things that we have found in working with teens. Obviously, the best way to do it is to get the schools involved. That's obviously where the teens are and where you can make the biggest difference. Every school is different, so you can't always just work with the SAD chapter of the FCCLA. You have to get a variety of student groups involved. You need to get the support of the school administrators. This is something where adult supervision is needed, so we got to recruit a faculty advisor. We have to let students volunteer to run the projects. Teens really are very busy people, perhaps the busiest people between their schoolwork, social work, and employments. So you have to be flexible. You have to be willing to let the kids come into and out of the program as they need to be. You have to provide teens with the resources. They're immensely creative people, but you need to get them started. You have to let them own it, which is something very difficult for corporations like I represent to do, because we all feel like we need to control the message. For these programs to be successful, we honestly believe that the teens have to come up with the ideas and they have to execute them on their own, which means we as adults have to get comfortable with the idea, which is not always very possible. And then finally, we have to offer incentives and rewards. These kids, they put a lot of time and effort in these programs, and they need to be rewarded as individuals and then as schools. I want to just take my last 30 seconds here to tell you about a program that you can get involved in. I mentioned our Act Out Loud program for National Youth Traffic Safety Month, which I think has been mentioned in earlier sessions today. There are more than 200 schools across the nation competing for about $60,000 in prize monies that goes to schools. Voting for the best project occurs May 16th to the 22nd at actoutloud.org. And there are actually 6 Illinois schools participating in this program. So let's bring the cash awards back to Illinois. I urge you to, from May 16th to the 22nd, to go on actoutloud.org, vote for your favorite school. I hope it's an Illinois school, and we hope we can make sure that our kids locally here know that we are supporting their efforts. My time is up. Happy to share more with you. But if you'd like to learn more about our programs or join the conversations, we have a couple websites that you can peek into. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Susan. It's always nice to see somebody from Glenview, because I'm from Arlington Heights, so very good neighbor. The next speaker we have is a personal friend of mine. Even though he is a Cardinal fan, I still like him. Dr. Dale Ritzel from Southern Illinois University. Dr. Ritzel has been involved in the field of traffic safety for years. And when I say years, I mean years. He's been associated with our state association for close to 50 years. The National Association, ATSIA, that I was past president of, he's been associated for about that long a time. Dr. Ritzel has received many awards, but one that I'm most proud of is that he received our National Association Award for Traffic Safety, the Kaywood Award. So without further ado, Dr. Dale Ritzel.
It wasn't quite 50 years, but it's actually been 45 years, 46 years. And I did start when I was 3 years old. So you can do the math on that real quick. I just wanted to point out, many of you probably looked at the USA Today, where it said on the front page, a quarter of American homes have hung up on landlines, which basically is meaning that about 26%, 27% of main telephone usage is now being done by cell phones, just from the standpoint of in their home, so they don't have landlines. I thought it was interesting. I want to wish everybody a happy Earth Day, too, today. What's the trick to this? Okay, that's me. That's enough. Any place to point this? Okay, the green one. Okay. Very quick overview. I don't have much time. I'm already past a lot of the time. My definition of distracted driving, actually it's a lot more than this, but the actually definition I like is one that came about as a result of the International Conference of Distracted Driving back 5 years ago, which I think really provides a lot more detail on what distracted driving is. I know I think we've seen at least 2 others today, and I think they're all good, but I like the fact that this one actually talks about driver awareness, decision-making, and performance, and increased risk. This was talked about earlier, and I'm not going to talk much more about it, but I thought I wanted to show a couple of things. I'm really here to talk about 2 things today. Talk about what we're doing in the driver education curriculum within the United States, as well as what teacher prep programs are doing. And one of the things we're trying to do is, I think my students would love this counting system when I taught in the classroom, because they would get me off the podium within a couple of minutes. But the issues, you really get them involved directly with technology and distracted driving. Do not focus just upon statistics and data. It glosses their eyes and it goes right over their head real quick. And so I think you need to get them in the hands-on approach. One of the things I like to do is have them do some brainstorming. Remember what their lives were in 2005. This actually comes from the New York Times, this information. And ask them what were they doing in the grade, how old they were and stuff like that. Have them write into a log or some type of sheet like that what they were doing. And then what was the internet like at that time? What was video games, cell phones, and what was their usage? And then give them a chance to write this all down, but also write down, and you can see on this next one, which is kind of hard to read, what their current usage is. Because I think a lot of times people don't realize what they used to do and what they're doing today. I think we've heard some good presentations today about some of the things that people have seen change in a short period of time. And by charting this out, you'll actually find by putting in the 2 charts at the bottom that they'll be surprised exactly how much they're using. And one of the things I was doing today as I walked in there, I was observing people using cell phones out in the hallway and stuff like that. I've been observing people in this room during presentations how much they were using cell phones. I really think that people who are addicted to cell phones will use them driving or not. I mean, it's a part of their personality, and it was talked about earlier about a part of their social network. So that's some of the things that we're seeing happening in regards to different states, some of the activities in regards to what teacher prep programs are doing. And again, this is just a good sampling. Actually, yesterday, a university in Minnesota conducted a Rive Alive program in which they use a high-tech simulator, impact video, and so on. One of the things that I don't have in here, but we've been using at our university, we happen to have a fairly large controlled driving facility in which we actually have people drive real cars while they're texting and working on the cell phone. Simulator will give you a lot, and we've done a lot of that too, but we find that when you actually get them into a controlled course that's cone and let them drive, they're really going to see what they're doing and not doing. And some of the other things that we're doing in Illinois in regards, there's a very good simulation film that's been out for quite a while called Crash Avoidance 2, and it gives students a chance to drive to emergency situations. We've used cell phones and text messaging along with that, and we find that it works very good. I'm going to have Dan right now. Dan, if you could get those cards out for me. I'm going to time you. Put them in 4 different piles for me. The diamonds, hearts, spades, and clubs, okay? Just put them down. Just separate them by 4 piles.
4 piles?
Yeah, no. Just put all diamonds, all hearts, all spades. He's a high school teacher, so I have to explain a little bit more. I'm going to use my time on this, okay?
I'm under pressure here.
I thought I would give it to the youngest person on the panel, even though I'm not going to guess anybody's ages up here. Dan just looks old.
You mix these up really good.
Okay, Dan, that's enough. I'm just going to stop you right there. He took about a half an hour to do part of the deck. Okay. No, 30 seconds, I should say. Not a half an hour. Now put them all back together. And this time I want you to answer questions as you do the same thing for me.
Oh, answer question. Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Okay, now do the same thing again. Okay, what's 2 plus 4?
2 plus 4.
Okay.
6.
Okay, what's 7 plus 3?
10.
Okay.
You can't do that. You
Oh,
can't do it two things
okay,
at once.
I've served my point even though I didn't get to the total time. So thank you, Dan. I made my point. See, this is one of the things that we can do very quickly with young people or college students. I do this with college students, and they quickly find out that they really can't do what they think they can do, particularly when you add the variable of talking. And again, this is what I tried to do here, and some of the other things. So let me just finish up with this because I'm very short of time. I would say you need to really target specific behaviors and audiences. You really can't do the same thing to all people in regards to anything you're trying to do. And what you need to find out what group is causing the biggest issue or biggest problem. Find out what tweaks them or gets them to do what they need to do, and then work on them. The general message is everybody should pay attention while driving. Doesn't work. We need to look at specific behaviors. Positive things we need to look at. You know, I realize the fact that probably most people that I know don't drive and text or use their cell phone. We tend to focus upon the fact that a lot of people do, but we also should be focused upon the fact that a lot of people don't, okay? And we need to be focusing upon why they don't do that. We need to use various types of social marketing. If you've got about 4 weeks, I can go into that for you. And encourage specific behaviors, best practices. Be truthful and memorable, and practice what you preach. And I know that's been talked about quite a bit here today. So thank you.
I think it's interesting to note that in the state of Illinois, we only have 3 universities that are dealing with anything traffic safety. Dr. Ritzel's down in Southern Illinois, Dr. Bates at Eastern, and Dr. Gruber, Northern or Aurora? Northern Illinois University. Way back in the 60s, now I know that I'm kind of dating myself, but there were several other universities involved in the field of traffic safety. But without further ado, I think what you see here now is what we have. We have the corporate and Susan and Dale with the university, and now we have representing the larger high schools, Mr. Dan Kleinfeld. Now Dan is the chairman of the driver ed program at Oak Park River Forest High School. One of many hats that Dan wears is he is a part of our legislative committee of our state association. And I'm going to embarrass someone right now. Brent, where's Brent? Brent, stand up. Brent is our other co-chairman that have done a lot in passing bills relating to traffic safety driver ed to benefit high school students. So, Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. As he said, I am the chairperson of the Driver Education Department at Oak Park River Forest High School. We service about 800 students a year through our driver ed program. So we have one of the larger driver ed programs in the state. And when I started teaching driver's ed a number of years back, and we started that first day of school, I started noticing a trend amongst the students. As we started talking about the mechanics of the car, and we put them in a simulator, and we said, okay, now put the key in the ignition, I noticed 1 or 2 students looking at me. And then as time went on, a couple of years, there were 3 or 4 students looking at me. And then I started having hands raised, and which one's the gas pedal? Which one's the brake pedal? And as this went on, I started realizing that the teens that we were seeing and teaching really didn't have a good command of just the basics of the car. So I started wondering, why don't they know, how to put the key in the ignition? I know how to put it. Everybody knows how to put the key in the ignition. Why don't they, this is kind of common knowledge, I thought. So as I did some more research, what I started finding out is when they were children in the car, they stopped being active participants in the car. All of a sudden, DVDs became popular, and everybody put a DVD player in the car and handheld devices, and we handed our children stuff to entertain them. They stopped watching what mom and dad were doing. They started engaging themselves in the cartoon or in the device that they were playing with. And when I was young and we stopped at Walgreens and mom went in, I jumped over the car seat, sat in the car, put the key in the ignition, and turned on the radio. Now they just take their headphones out of their pocket, put their iPod on, and they sit and they start playing games. They never even remove themselves from the seat that they're sitting in, nor do they watch the traffic patterns and what's going on. So that's the world that we live in today, and that's the education that's the level of education about driving that a student comes to us now. And so when we started teaching more and more, I started realizing a lot of students were saying, well, my dad doesn't do it that way, and my dad does this, and my mom does this. And I started realizing really fast that parents have a huge influence on how the teens learn how to drive and how they're going to continue driving. And so what I did in my program, I said, we got to get the parents in here. We got to get the parents in here so we could talk directly to them. So one of the first things I initiated a few years back was I created a parent-teen night to talk to parents and teens. And I also created a parent-teen booklet that has become larger and larger over time. And so then when this came up about 2 years ago, I was having some conversations with the people from Shriners, and Andy Pilgrim was doing a wonderful video on just how to drive in general. I became more and more involved with the distracted driving and seeing that was more and more of a problem. And so the methods that I started using to get parents and teens knowledgeable about basic driving patterns really lend themselves to getting to them to talk about distracted driving. So here's some of the things that I thought that we needed to hit. So how do we inform teens and parents and families of the distracted driving? And then one of the hardest things that we have to do is change perceptions and attitudes, and that's very difficult to do. But if you get the parents and the teens on board, it can be done. And then how do we create an environment to do that? Well, the public high school system really allows for that, because it allows us to present to teens and parents periodically. Studies show that parents still have a strong influence on what their teens do. I hear this over and over again. I watch my dad. He can drive, drinking coffee, talking on the phone, and drive me to school. He does it every morning. I can do that. Even though dad says, no, 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 don't do that, I don't want you to do that, if they're seeing their parents do it, they're going to emulate it. We're in a unique position to reach all the teens and families, not just with driver's ed, but with all the activities that go on in a high school, through sporting events, through other plays, through other sponsored events by the school. And then, of course, we have a wide group of teenagers that we could spread the word with through programs like SAD and other school programs. So it really, for a successful driver's ed program, and what I would believe to be a successfully getting to the parents and the teens about distracted driving would be to engage all of these parts of the high school program, parents, teachers, teens, and school and community. So what do we do at our parent-teen night? What it does is it puts all the stakeholders in one room and keeps them captive for at least an hour. At our school, we have usually about the participation for one semester. There's usually 360 kids a semester, so we're looking at about 700 to 800 people in a room. We bring in the police department because we feel it's important for them to explain to the parents and the teens what the laws are. We bring in some guest speakers. We talk to them about not just our program and how we drive, but we talk to them about how parents' behavior can affect their teens' behavior. It also begins this relationship with the teacher and the parent. The teacher can now see who their their parent is, and the parent can see the teacher, and it starts that dialogue. And we use the older teens, the teens that went through the program, to facilitate the program. It incorporates the teens back in the program to hear the message, because the message changes as we go on. As laws change, the message changes. And the other important thing that the high school has, it already has an electronic database for the school. And you can't just hit them once at the beginning with the parent-teen night. What we do is we use the electronic email program, and we send out messages to the parents and the teens to constantly update them on what is going on. And with that, we can attach PSAs. We can set up links to give them information that we feel is valuable to them. We have parent message boards that we can leave information on. We also been incorporating, and this is new, using our school newspaper, and we have like a cable access channel that we've been using. And then, of course, all the other media that's available at the school. You can use that to get our information across. So I guess what's important here is we have the ability through the public school to reach out and capture and provide information to the parents and teens. I think all of them agree that these behaviors are bad. We all know that. But getting them to get on board with it and seeing their teen influence them is a big influence. I've had a lot of parents come back to me and say, you know, I always crawled through that, I rolled through that stop sign. My teen brings it up every single time. I don't do that anymore, I become a better parallel parker because I had to practice it with my teen, a dozen times, and now I feel better about it. So we can reach them, and I think with your help and getting us the information, we can provide that information to the parents and teens and be that good contact for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Of the 750 schools districts in the state of Illinois, most are schools of 200, 300, 400 students. Our next speaker, Judy Weber Jones, is a high school instructor at Melvin Sibley, Gibson, Melvin Sibley. When I started teaching at Clifton Central, it was just Gibson City Greyhounds. So that's, but Judy is one of the premier teachers in the state. She not only is a great high school instructor, but she is a great person in getting students involved, and some of her students are here. The Project Ignition that she has developed has been presented not only at our national conference, but our state conference and throughout the country. So without further ado, may I introduce Judy Weber Jones. Judy?
Thank you, Roger. First, I'd like to recognize my three teens. If they could go ahead and stand up. Jacob Dickey, he's one who asked a question earlier. He's also part of the SAD Youth Advisory Board. Kelsey Brewer and Nick Bodie. They're three of my Project Ignition leaders. In my 26 years of teaching driver education, Project Ignition has been, it's a teen safe driving service learning teen safe driving program, and it's been one of the only projects to change teen driving attitudes and behaviors. And an example of that would be when we went out in Philadelphia in 2006, a national teen safety competition. We came back, and that was right after we had 15 deaths in 15 months in Tazewell County. And after that, they called us out, and we went and presented. As soon as we got in the door, the teens came up to me, and they said, the adults don't get it. They aren't listening to us on what needs to be done. And that hit home to me, and that's why I said this is one of those projects, the $1 million answer to changing teen driving attitudes and behaviors. they said the adults weren't listening. The adults wanted to change the speed limits, change the roads. The crashes were happening on all different roadways. And it's very important that we do get the teens involved. From that, what had happened, IDOT, Mike Stout, got a hold of me, gave us a $23,000 grant to help spread the word to other counties. So we had 5 counties come together, with Tazewell County being one of those. And I think since that time, they've only had a few deaths in Tazewell County in the past 5 years. And after that, Mike Stout came up with the idea to go ahead and start Operation Teen Safe Driving to get more schools involved. And he had us go ahead and mentor and train the 105 schools, the first 105 schools, to get Operation Teen Safe Driving program. I just feel it's very important that you have, with your driver's ed curriculum, some type of teen safe driving program to help get the kids involved, because just like it was mentioned earlier, a lot of great things have been mentioned all day long, but the kids have to have the ownership in the project, and you have to have that positive peer pressure for the kids to get it. We've also, as far as how effective our school's been, that first one is the increase. We had a 33% increase. We went from 66% back in 2005 to 99% now. And this is our teens, and we also check our adults too as we go through. These last 3 are what decreased, okay? We increased seatbelt usage by 33%, but we also decreased our distracted driving by 35%, speeding by 71%, and crashes by 67%. And I think those numbers speak volumes there as far as the power that we have in our teens to get the message across. Again, this service learning project, what it is, you have to implement it. I feel it needs to be implemented all the way across the curriculum. What that means is you have to have, like, if you have a, I'll just give a couple examples because I don't have much time. You know, in a math class, they can still go through, you can tell the kids in class, you know, how many feet, you know, as far as that you traveled during distracted driving at like 55 miles an hour. But you need to also get them involved, have them figure out, like if you're looking down for a text and it takes 4 seconds or whatever to read the text at so many miles per hour, having them actually figure out that distance, go measure it on a football field or a gymnasium where they can actually physically see how far that they travel in that period of time. Other things kids can do through the government classes, they can go ahead and, like legislations, the Wilhelms, I'm glad to see them here. Chuck and Gloria, we've worked with them. It was 2.5 years before we finally got the some of the bills across as far as the texting ban, and also as far as House Bill 71 and 72, as far as we'd like to ultimately get the ban on cell phones altogether. A few other things. Again, your friends, you need that positive peer pressure. How do you get it started, you ask? Again, the Wilhelms that are here, pamphlets, you can download those. I'll give you my website here pretty soon. I also want to recognize Andy Pilgrim, too, if he'll stand up in that back corner over there. We had an Illinois and Indiana seminar, which was kind of put together, mainly Jacob Dickey over there kind of started it, pulled it all together. And came up, Andy put together one of the best, most comprehensive distracted driving DVDs that's out there right now. And we're going to get that to every school in the state of Illinois. And we want them to, we're working on the state driver's ed curriculum, and we're going to work to make sure this, Sahara's going to help us out on this, making sure this gets to every school in the state of Illinois, because we want to make sure that everybody has a good distracted driving curriculum for them to go by. This is done by chapters that go along with the driver education books, so we don't want the teacher just plugging it in and playing the whole thing through, to discuss and talk about the importance of how dangerous it is for distracted driving. A few other things. Our kids have, through a multimedia journalism class, they've worked together and put together videos, and we're going to show one of the videos that won out in Washington, D.C., the U.S. Department of Transportation. We took first place out there, and the kids know that there's going to be distracted driving. And want me to click this? And there had been crashes around our area where somebody went across the center line.
He's coming over the center line.
As much as we would like to eliminate the distracted driving problem, there's still not people out there that do it, and the kids wanted to put together a message to find a way to help avoid a head-on collision, which is the most fatal type of crash that's out there. Right here is our website. All 31 of the DVDs, or all 31 of the videos that our students have put together on every topic you can imagine, because distracted driving, we found with all the surveys we've done at our school, that's the number one problem we know that's out there right now. But we're surrounded by railroad tracks, rural area, so we do train safety, we do all different things. So we'll click here to this next one to let you kind of see a little bit. So up at the top of our website has all the different years and presentations that we've done to give schools ideas so they can get a teen safe driving program started. We've got a video gallery that's a link on the left-hand side, and that video gallery, like I said, has our 31 videos on it that you can hit different topics. And then, like I said, websites are going to be at the top. At the bottom, there's going to be presentations, all the presentations that we've done over the years that you can resort back to. And without any, just one other thing I wanted to add on Dan's. Our kids put together videos, too, for the parents, because not all the parents are getting it. So for our parent night, they also put together, a parent doing everything right, and of course that teen stays nice and safe, no tickets, no crashes. Parent that sometimes drives distracted, might be in a fender bender or get injured a little bit, and then shows a parent who does things wrong all the time. And it just means more knowing that the kids put it together, the kids are in the videos, even some of the parents are in the videos. But you've got to have that parental support, and the parents being positive role models for our kids too, so that's just very important. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for having us, and we deeply appreciate it.